Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The Tape That Watches You, found footage. It was a gray, rain-soaked afternoon when Ethan stumbled upon the old video store on the edge of town. The sign above the door was faded and cracked, the letters barely legible. Memories rewound. He had passed that place 100 times before, but today, drawn by a mix of boredom and curiosity, he decided to go inside. The dim interior smelled of dust, vinegar, and something old and forgotten. Shelves were lined with boxes of film reels, VHS tapes, and relics from a time before streaming, before instant everything. Behind the counter sat a hunched old man with eyes sharp as broken glass beneath a shock of thinning gray hair. Ethan greeted him with a hesitant nod. "You looking for something specific?" the man rasped. "Just browsing," Ethan replied. His fingers traced the spines of tapes until one tape caught his eye. It was plain, unlabeled, housed in a yellowed plastic sleeve. No title, no cover art. Just a small, handwritten note taped next to it. "The Tape That Watches You." Ethan chuckled, a mixture of intrigue and skepticism swirling in his mind. "What's this one about?" he asked. The old man's eyes darkened, a shadow creeping over his face. "That one? Well, it's not your average movie. Rumor says it's cursed. Plays differently depending on who watches it. But no matter who you are, it always ends the same way. Your death." Ethan laughed it off. "Sounds like a cheap horror gimmick." The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. "Be careful what you watch. Some stories don't want to be told." But Ethan had his mind made up. For a thrill, for a story to tell his friends, or perhaps just to see if there was any truth in the superstition, he bought the tape and hurried home. Later that night, he locked his apartment door, dimmed the lights, and slid the cassette into his creaky VCR. The screen flickered to life, static hissing and crackling before giving way to oddly distorted images, colors bleeding, edges blurring. The sound was warped. A low hum punctuated by eerie whispers he couldn't quite understand. From the start, the tape felt off. The scenes shifted strangely, unnatural cuts between moments in his apartment, close-ups of his belongings, and blurred shadows moving just beyond his sight. His own face appeared reflected in the window behind him as he sat watching. The tape wasn't just a recording. Ethan realized with a chill, it was watching him back. Then the scenes turned darker, more cryptic. Images of a twisted figure lurking in the corner of the room, eyes glowing in the darkness. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. The tape seemed to echo his own movements, almost predicting them, as if it were alive, feeding on his fear. Moments later, the image on the screen warped one last time, showing a terrifying scene. Ethan, collapsing to the floor, clutching his chest in agony. The camera angle shifted closer, an unseen force gripping his throat, his mouth opening but no sound escaping. Ethan snapped off the tape. His hands trembled. It was just a trick, he told himself. A cleverly fabricated video. But a creeping sense of dread settled in his chest. Over the next few days, Ethan tried to forget the tape. He returned to the old video store to ask the man more questions, but the place had vanished, boarded up, abandoned like a ghost. When he pressed neighbors, no one remembered a video store ever existing at that spot. It was as if it had never been there. Then came the nightmares. At first, they were subtle, dark shapes lurking at the edge of vision, murmurs beneath the silence of his sleep. But every night, they grew more vivid. He dreamt of a tape rolling endlessly, scenes of his own life twisted into grotesque variations. The shadowy figure from the recording haunted every frame. During the day, Ethan found himself watching over his shoulder, always expecting to see something or someone just out of sight. His friends started to notice the change, his pale complexion, the jittery way he answered the phone, the haunted look in his eyes. One night, unable to resist, Ethan played the cursed tape again. The images this time were different. The distorted figure was clearer, its face a grotesque mockery of his own. The scene at the end showed him hanging from a rope, the noose tied around his neck, his eyes wide with terror. He stopped the tape furious and terrified, pounding the VCR to eject the cassette, but it wouldn't come free. The machine whirred violently, lights flashing erratically. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. When the power returned moments later, the tape lay on the floor, ejected, but unrolling like an ancient scroll. On the screen, static and flickering images continued without pause. Ethan scrambled to unplug the player, but the screen suddenly displayed a live feed, not a film at all but a direct video of his own apartment, exactly as it looked now. The tape was watching. Days blurred together. Ethan's grip on reality frayed as the tape invaded every corner of his life. Friends stopped returning calls when he begged for help. The police dismissed his claims as delusions. His only companion was the cursed tape, each viewing bearing new horrors designed personally for him. Visions of feverish madness, despair, and the shadow foretelling his doom. Then, during a surveillance footage leak online, Ethan discovered something more horrifying. Videos posted by other strangers showed the same tape, from different towns, different times. Each video ended with the viewer's death, uniquely cruel, always previewed in the final scenes of the tape as it played. In one clip, a woman agonized over the camera angle, the eerie figure for once clearly visible behind her in a mirror, then collapsed from a knife wound that no one in the crew had seen coming. Another showed a man being dragged underground by unseen hands after the screen displayed his own terrified face drowning in a bathtub. Ethan saw his fate unfolding like a script that could no longer be rewritten. Determined to break the curse, Ethan scoured occult forums and ancient libraries for any reference to the tape's origins. He found mentions of a disgraced filmmaker who had vanished decades ago after his final project went too far. The project was a cursed film that consumed those who watched it, warping reality around them until it claimed their lives. Facing the inevitable, Ethan recorded a final message on his phone, warning others and confessing his fears. That night, Ethan played the tape once more. This time, the images merged with his reality. The shadow figure stepped through the screen, reaching toward him, dragging him into the flickering abyss. The final frame froze on his face, a mask of overwhelming fear, but also a single tear of strange relief. Everything fell silent. The tape ejected smoothly, lying on his floor like an empty promise. The next morning, Ethan's apartment was found empty. No sign of struggle, no trace of him but the cursed VHS still flickering in the VCR, endlessly looping the last scene as if inviting the next viewer. For more stories, like and subscribe.